Good morning, students. Today in this video we are going to continue with chapter 7, Respiration in Plants. In the previous video we ended with two types of respirations and their differences: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is also called oxybiotic respiration, and as we have already seen, it takes place in the presence of oxygen. And anaerobic respiration is also called anoxybiotic, and it occurs in the absence of oxygen. Now we will try to explain and find out through various experiments about aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. In the first experiment, the aim of the experiment is to show that carbon dioxide is produced during respiration. Carbon dioxide is produced during respiration. In the previous video, we discussed that one of the products is carbon dioxide. So in this experiment, we will see and try to prove that carbon dioxide is released during respiration. We have the experimental setup here with 4 flasks: flask A, flask B, flask C, and flask B. And each of these flasks are connected by these tubes. In flask A, there is potassium hydroxide solution. In flask B also, there is potassium hydroxide solution. Flask C, we have germinating seeds, and flask B has lime water, which is also potassium hydroxide. Now, let's see. Here, through this tube, the air enters into flask A. We know the composition of air. One of the compositions of air is carbon dioxide. Our experiment is to suggest that carbon dioxide is produced during respiration. So we do not want carbon dioxide in the air which is moving into this flask. So potassium hydroxide solution absorbs the carbon dioxide present in the air. So the rest of the air moves through this tube and moves to flask B. If the remaining carbon dioxide which could not be absorbed here in flask A, the remaining carbon dioxide will be absorbed by potassium hydroxide of flask B. So by the time the air moves into flask B, the air is free of carbon dioxide. There is no carbon dioxide. So the rest of the air moves to flask C. C contains germinating seeds. Seeds need oxygen, so this air which is moving into C contains oxygen. So these germinating seeds, they require oxygen for germination and respiration in a particular way. And when they respire, carbon dioxide is produced here, and this carbon dioxide moves through this tube into flask D. Alright, with remaining air, whatever. So the flask D, which contains lime water, it turns milky. That is the test for the presence of carbon dioxide. Now, why did this lime water turn milky? Because of carbon dioxide that was produced by the germinating seeds of flask C, and rest of the air then is pushed out through suction pump. So this experiment shows us that carbon dioxide is produced during respiration. Now, second experiment to show that heat is produced during respiration. Okay, heat is also produced, We have in previous video we have lesson discussion we have discussed that heat is also produced. Now let's see how heat is produced and how to show that. We have again flask. These are thermo flasks. These are special flasks, not like these flasks. These are thermos flasks, which does not allow the walls of these flasks do not allow the outside temperature to enter in and inner temperature to come out. And so we have, inside these thermo flasks we have seeds. In flask A we have germinating living seeds. In flask B we have dead seeds which are soaked in disinfectant. Disinfectants is medicine. We can say in a common language it's a medicine. It's the solution which does not allow the dead seeds to be rotten. And so we have kept there. And the top of the opening of the flask is covered by wet cotton wool. And thermometers are fixed to the mouth of the flask. Now after some time what will happen when we leave this experimental setup? After some time what will happen? These seeds which are living and germinating, they respire. When they respire, heat is produced. When heat is produced, then mercury of this thermometer rises up. You can see the red line which has risen up. This suggests that the temperature or the heat is produced by these germinating seeds. Whereas here, dead seeds which are non-living, which are dead, they are no more living, they do not respire. And once they do not respire, heat is not produced. And how we will know that heat is not produced? Here, the mercury level of this thermometer does not rise. This shows that heat is not produced by non-living or dead cells, whereas living cells, living seeds, they respire and so heat is produced. I hope you have understood this. Experiment number 3. Experiment to show that oxygen is used during respiration. We know oxygen is used during aerobic respiration in the presence of oxygen. So this experiment will prove that oxygen is used in respiration. We know that air is composed of oxygen. Yes, air is composed of oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen and so on. So here we have this experimental setup. We have flask A, flask B. Flask A has germinating seeds, flask B has dead seeds. And they are wrapped in a wet cotton wool, both of these seeds, because water is needed for germination. Now, in a small test tube inside the flasks, we have soda lime. Soda lime is a mixture of sodium hydroxide and calcium hydroxide. Sodium and calcium hydroxide is a mixture of sodium and calcium hydroxide. So, what is the purpose of this soda lime? The purpose of soda lime is to absorb carbon dioxide present in the space. The air is filled, the space is filled with air. So air contains carbon dioxide. To absorb that carbon dioxide, soda lime is put there. Now these two flasks are connected with the beaker containing water through tube X and tube Y respectively. Now let's see. Oxygen is used during respiration. Here the germinating seeds are respiring. They are using oxygen. Alright. Now when they use oxygen present in the space, in the flask and the tube, that space will be emptied because oxygen is used up. And so what will happen? The water which is there in a beaker, that will be sucked in, and this level of water in tube Y will rise. Why? To take the place of oxygen that was used by respiring seeds. Now in this, the dead seeds do not respire, and so they don't use oxygen. So the water over here in tube Y does not rise because oxygen is not used. So this experiment shows that In aerobic respiration, oxygen is used. Oxygen is used. Let's come to the last experiment, which is on anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration occurs in the absence of oxygen. Now here we have a experimental setup, a beaker and a test tube, which is inadvertently put inside the beaker containing mercury. And this mercury is completely filled with, this test tube is completely filled with mercury, and some germinating seeds are inserted at the top, pushed at the top of the test tube. Make sure that there is no space remaining. If the space is remaining, air is there. When the space is not there, air is not there. We are showing what? Anaerobic respiration. Respiration in the absence of oxygen. Now after 2 to 3 days, when we leave this experiment for 2 to 3 days, what is the condition? Now at the top of the test tube, you see a space, and that space is filled with oxygen, filled with air or gas, and that gas is called carbon dioxide. Why? These seeds are respiring. After respiration, during respiration, carbon dioxide is produced, and that carbon dioxide is getting collected at the top of the test tube and at the space. And this carbon, how to test? Bring lime water, put this carbon dioxide in lime water will turn milky. That shows that the gas collected here is carbon dioxide. Alright, so these seeds respired in the absence of